Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
Thanks to TriBooth, the best vocal booth for home or on-the-road voice recording. And Austrian Audio, making passion heard. Introducing Robert Marshall from Source Elements and Someone Audio Post, Chicago. Darren Robbo Robertson from Voodoo Radio Imaging, Sydney. Tech to the VO Stars, George the Tech Whittam from LA. And me, Andrew Peters, voiceover talent and home studio guy.
Line up, learner!
Here we go.
And welcome to another Pro Audio Suite. Thanks to TriBooth. Don't forget the code TRIPAP200 to get $200 off your TriBooth. Also, Austrian Audio, making passion heard. And Passport VO, the collaboration between the Pro Audio Suite and Centrance, with the new interface coming out later in the year. So, I feel better for that. Yes. What a lovely afternoon.
Play that again, Robert. Meanwhile, back on the Pro Audio Suite.
We're having a lovely cup of tea and a scone. Jam, anybody? Bit of cream.
Oh, dear.
Lovely.
Clotted. Only what is it? Clotted.
Clotted cream, of course. If you're from the West Country, you would know what clotted cream is. And if you eat enough of it, your arteries will be clotted too.
Yes, exactly.
And so...
There's too many. I wanted this one.
All right, back to work.
What were we talking about this
Okay.
week? Your favourite toys? I think Robert's just answered the question. There we go. There's one down.
Yep. So we are talking about our favourite DAW, and I think we're in for a bit of a Reaper rave from George.
Okay, so imagine if Pro Tools started with, what do you want your Pro Tools to look like?
Mm-hmm.
What would you like your hotkeys to be? How many layers of tracks per track would you like to have? And what kind of automations would you like to configure for your Pro Tools? And then you did that on every single system and did them all different and unique for each producer. Can you imagine your life?
I know, isn't Reaper powerful?
Cool. Yeah.
Can you imagine your life as an engineer support tech supporting all these different and unique,
Configurations.
colors of the rainbow Reaper systems? That's Reaper. And that's the hell that Reaper creates for guys like me and people like us. So we tried to teach Reaper to our folks, and we did do it we did a 4-hour class, really, 2 2-hour classes. And the takeaway from it was, and Steven Gonzalez, who taught it, really knows Reaper, right? I mean, he knows Reaper, dude. Really, really knows it.
Yep.
He taught everybody how to make Reaper work the way that he likes to use Reaper for recording his audio for, voiceover, e-learning and other kinds of long-form projects and stuff.
And he's an engineer, or is he a voice talent?
Well, he's both, right? And this lies here lies the rub, right? There are a lot of us more technical sided folks who are dabbling or / even thriving as voiceover actors, right? I would say they are absolutely the minority, at least in my world, and that's because in my world I'm working with the ones who don't know the technology because they're the ones that hire us, right? So I'm sure there are a lot of...
Thank God for
Yeah,
them.
I'm sure there's a lot of technically adept or even extremely technical voice actors out there. I mean, like there are definitely many, right? So what I've learned from watching the experience of others learning a new concept like using Reaper to replace what they are already using, which is really the context in which these folks are learning Reaper, right? They're not coming in to learn Reaper like this is your first recording studio, right? And it's like Reaper feels like you're getting a giant box of Legos and there's no picture on the box, right?
Yes.
That's Reaper, right? So you're giving all these people a giant box of Legos, and then over a phone call or maybe over a screen share, you're explaining to them how to assemble their Legos to look like this studio, right? That's Reaper. Even Pro Tools, which obviously to the actor can seem a little daunting with multi-track functionality, the non-destructive aspect of it, the needing to rearm a track and understanding slip and shuffle mode and on, is absolutely more straightforward than learning Reaper. So what I've taken away from it is not that I don't think there's a way to teach Reaper in a way that makes sense to the actor or to the actor who's coming from Twisted Wave or Audacity or Audition. Because there's a lot of folks, especially coming from Audition, they're tired of sending this little company that bought up all the technology, Adobe. They bought, Macromedia and all these. They're tired of paying them for the use of this software after doing it for many years. And so they're looking at Reaper. But they come away from it going, well, how do I do this one thing, right? I used to be able to do X. And it's not that the answer is never, there's no way to do it, right? The Reaper tech or the Reaper trainer will never say that's not possible. They will then explain to you or teach you or set it up on how to do it. It might take 20 or 30 minutes or go through many steps, but they will eventually be able to make it do what you need it to do, right? So I just feel like Reaper is designed for people who are like the hobby of recording, right? They like the technology of recording. They embrace it. They love learning new technical things. They love customizing things to work to their, ability. But I don't feel like it's a strong tool for the performer. Even more so, I would say, if you feel and you know who you are, if you're a very right-brained person, Reaper, I don't feel is a good place to start, or even maybe in a right place to go. I think it's better to stick with the really simple tools. And again, I know they're destructive. Twisted Wave is destructive. WaveLab is destructive. I know that, but I feel like these are better tools for the job. What do you guys think?
Well, I was going to say,
I think everyone should use Sound Designer too.
Why?
I don't know, because it's the simple.
Well, somebody said I missed Peak. Bias Peak.
Yeah, they're all the Peak, Twisted Wave, Sound Designer 2, WaveLab. They're all just waveform editor programs. Right. And that's fine. It's easier to understand because it's a little bit more like comparing text to Microsoft Word.
Yes.
And the full, the full, editing, write your whole novel or just write a note. Right. And that's kind of the difference. I do disagree with the fact that Reaper can literally do it all. Reaper will beat pretty much any price point. Reaper is also incredibly stable and very lightweight. When you look at how small Reaper is compared to Pro Tools, it's like a couple hundred megs compared to gigs.
Hundred. It's like
there's a lot of
the install file. It's like 25 megabytes for Reaper.
Yeah, it's nothing. And that just shows you how efficient and good it is. I mean, the only thing about Reaper is that because literally it does it all, to some people it's daunting, but I think what some people lack is the ability to shut out all the noise. It has a million menus. It has all kinds of stuff. And if you're like, hey, open Reaper, click here and open template that I made for you. Click here to record ARM and click there to roll. And if you just do those things, it's going to do everything you want it to do.
Reaper will even store the state of record ARM. So when you open a new project, it will pre-ARM the track for you, which is pretty cool, right? So if it is designed and built and tuned for that use case and configured properly, and you have the right training to accompany that information, I think it could be a really good tool.
And you don't touch anything else.
Well, that's the thing, right? Now, so with Pro Tools,
right,
because it's a keyboard shortcut, oriented tool set, if you fat finger a keystroke, you will change the way Pro Tools runs.
You'll launch a missile or something.
Like the N button. Do you know how many times I hit the N button?
Rob, I have a way better one to fuck you up in Pro Tools. Just hit.
I'm sure I've been there.
Shift backslash.
Shift backslash?
Backslash.
Is that the key above the enter key? Is that the backslash key you're talking about?
No, the key right next to the shift. I'm pretty sure it's the key right next to the shift.
Next to the shift key.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
That's the
Yeah, the one you use on the web when you're doing www.
What's that do? Does it change the keyboard focus?
It separates. Okay. You ready? It separates your playhead from your kind of record head.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
People love that.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that the people that have been taught how to do that actually love that feature. It's not many people.
It's terribly implemented compared to the way it should. So that's a feature that comes from video editing, and really it comes from like the Avid Media Composer, and that style of editing is known as source destination editing, and works great for video and works great in general for post-production. And the problem with Pro Tools is that, and it's funny, other programs almost have it. You look at what do you call it? The Adobe one.
Audition?
Audition?
Audition. And it has a file editor.
Yeah, it's called Waveform.
And I don't know if you can, right? And I don't know if you can, but can you like copy from the file editor and paste into
Yeah, you can
Yeah, that's the whole
seamlessly
point.
back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of like a source destination editor there. But Pro Tools doesn't have a file editor. So what you end up doing is having to like the way I compare it with Pro Tools is it's the painter who has to mix his paints on the canvas that he's painting on.
Yeah.
Because you don't get the palette. So you got to go pick someplace 5 hours down the timeline that's going to be your palette.
That
your
does
source.
fascinate me that Avid has decided to create a waveform editor function when literally everybody else has.
They dumped it. And they dumped it, right? They had Sound Designer 2.
that was their
back in 1995, and they got rid of it in favor of Audio Suite. Here's how you're going to edit your files with Audio Suite.
So everything in Audio Suite is affecting the waveform,
Yes.
right?
But it's not destructive.
That's the whole point of it. It's the destruct. Well, it can be, and I use it destructively a lot.
Do you?
So oh yeah.
Why do you do that?
Anytime you don't want to like wait for a long ass bounce, and you just want to do something to a file,
true. Yeah.
and that's what you want, just like bang it with an Audio Suite.
Somebody taught me years ago Shift Command K because we were so tired of waiting for bouncing.
Exporting audio files.
We would
right.
apply.
Yeah, exactly.
We were literally. Voice actors specifically, were literally using Pro Tools as a destructive waveform editor, because we were doing everything directly to the file with Audio Suite, Shift Command K, and spitting out the file because we just refused to wait for a fucking real time bounce. It was just when they added offline bounce, I was able to go, okay, let me reteach you how to use Pro Tools the right way.
I still use Shift Command K.
Yeah, I use it.
I still use Shift Command K, and it's like constant. But that's sort of where that feature comes from. And I think we were first trying to think of ways to mess people up. But when you hit play and your cursor is not where you think it is, and you're not fully using that feature, that'll
really mess with your
trip
head.
you up.
Now,
for
I was
sure.
thinking of another thing in Pro Tools that I think Randy Thomas showed me one time. She says, why can't I do this in Twisted Wave? And this was, I want to be able to play, listen, and edit behind the play cursor. So I want to be able to make selections
while you're recording,
while I'm playing back,
or while you're.
So I want to play back.
Oh, I edit all the time while it's recording. While it's,
That's how I edit this show.
Oh, while it's playing back, right? So
in fact, I play this game where I'm playing something and I try to de-breath it, like in real time. Like, hey, can we hear that back? And I'll hit play, and then I'll just try to start cutting breaths before it gets to them. Eventually, it catches up to
only
you.
in slip mode, of course, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, it's fascinating the different tools you can use in Pro Tools to be really, really fast when you're really, really good at it, And that is definitely one of those tools. And I've been asking actually Thomas with Twisted Wave now that it's subscription, he'll hopefully he'll have a little more motivation to keep developing new features. But a long time ago, I said, hey, one thing that people really miss from Pro Tools is that ability, is to be able to detach the selection from the playhead. In Twisted Wave, if you make a selection, it will immediately jump to whatever you've selected, right?
Yeah.
So
That's annoying. Yeah.
yeah, that's just the way it works.
The best one at this is Fairlight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, talk about the best editor. That is Fairlight. Because what Fairlight does is your selection is exactly separate from the playhead. But Fairlight lacks like a bin to edit from. It lacks a source. So it's a bit like Pro Tools in that you kind of got to use your canvas as your palette. But what Fairlight does, which is amazing, is this. Imagine you have a word. The cat is red, all right? And you select the whole thing. The cat is red. And then before you copy, you go and you scrub and you put your cursor right on the of red, okay? And so now you copy. Your cursor was at the of red. And then you go over to your destination where you're going to cut it, and you go and you're replacing a thing that said the dog is blue and has a much different pacing, but you need red to be where red is and blue to be where blue is. And you put your cursor where blue on the destination is, and it will paste that clip relative to the red. It'll put blue because that's where your cursor was.
We have this in Twisted Wave, by the way.
Yeah, and you can kind of do it on Pro Tools, but it's a much longer way around.
Oh, the fucking sync point bullshit?
Yeah, the sync point.
No, Pro Tools has a sync point.
Command, comma.
And the problem with Pro Tools is you have to paste it. You have to paste it, and then you have to move it to the sync point. There's no paste to sync. There's no head paste. There's no tail. Sorry, there's only head paste. There's no tail paste. There's no sync paste in Pro Tools.
You can spot to the sync point. If you use spot mode, you can do it. That's the way I do it.
You can spot to the sync point, but you can't paste. You can't paste a sync point.
Yeah, but what I do is I cut and then I hit using spot and then and then I paste using when you paste.
And then you open the edit back up.
Yeah, it's a longer way around, much longer way around.
7 clicks.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what they do in actually Twisted Wave and the waveform editor in Audition both have something called special paste or mix paste, and so it does a similar thing. You can select any length of audio. Then you can choose any length of paste point, and it will change the length of that selection to match the length of the...
No, Pro Tools will do that. Yeah, Pro Tools will do that, like paste to fill and things like that.
This is different then. Got it.
Yeah, I'm talking about like pasting something and putting
the exact moment where the play cursor was.
Yeah. Pasting it relative to where the play cursor was. Everything else just pastes relative to the beginning of the selection.
That's pretty clever, actually. So that's one reason why, like, Buzzies and stuff loved using Fairlights because they were really fast on it.
If you're editing dialogue, the Fairlight was the sharpest knife.
Yeah, I remember that was the only studio. I mean, I have not been into a lot of studios, but I remember the only studio I'd ever been in with Fairlight actively being used was Buzzies in
There's a few, but they all tended to be like, it's funny, like NFL films, I think, might still use Fairlight. I'm not sure, but there's a few holdouts, but a lot of them were very much in like the
isn't Fairlight now
editing.
free because it's just built into DaVinci Resolve?
It is.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, but you would find Reaper easier to deal with than Fairlight when it comes to its busing structure. But that said, like Fairlight just came out with a clarity of their own. Like they have like a clarity plugin built into Fairlight.
I mean, but if you don't need the complex busing, blah blah blah, would Fairlight be easy to learn to edit on?
Well, I had to learn, and we're talking a few years ago now. When I went to a post-production house here many years ago called Take Two, I went as senior sound designer. They had a Fairlight and they were running it through the Prodigy surround console. And I'd come from Pro Tools and then I'd been at George Pat's and we had DSP.
And the Prodigy was the Amic, right?
Yeah. And we had DSP.
Those three screen DSP systems.
Yeah, we had those. We had that at George Pat's, the advertising agency I'd been at before I went to Take Two. So I'd never sat behind a Fairlight, and we're talking a while ago now, so I can't speak for the current version. But I picked it up reasonably quickly. I didn't find it difficult. It was just remembering keystrokes and finding your way around. The sort of layout, I guess, more than anything.
I mean, I'm sure it's like anything else. Like once you get to know it, it's it's great. I'm not familiar with its busing structure, and it feels a little bit caged in.
Is it worth I guess that's my point. Is it worth getting to know it? Is my point. Like I'm just thinking. Like we're used to Twisted Wave. It's so
I think
easy.
DaVinci is a bulky application for a voice actor.
Are we talking? Yeah, I was going to say if we're talking voice actors, I'd keep it simple. I mean, I guess my question to you, George, to take a few steps back was going to be because I'll be honest, I don't stray much from Pro Tools and Audition, my two main DAWs. For a voice actor, is there a difficulty in just sticking to the 2-track editor in Audition? Is it just a cost thing? What's the deal with that? Because if I was a voice actor, that would be what I'd be using. I'd just use that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not just use Audacity? If what you're looking for is simple, cheap 2-track editing, maybe sort of pseudo multi-track, Audacity does it fairly well.
Audacity's fine. I mean, I like software that has support. I like having a guy or a team to talk to. And, that's why I can do almost everything in Twisted Wave I can do with Audacity. I can't do everything in Twisted Wave that I can do in Audacity, right? I mean, Audacity has the macro function in Audacity is like if they mated love child of batch processing and stacking, right? To a macro, I can add normalize. I can't add normalize to a batch, right? I can't add normalize to a rack. You can't use it.
I'm sure Audacity has 1,000 holes in it because it's like the open source kumbaya.
But it's getting better all the time.
Soup with no taste.
Because I have to support it, so I try to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's getting better and better and better and better. But it's still like you open certain plugins and you're going, whoever came up with this idea of how a compressor should work has never really used one before. It's what the hell are these control? Why is there a gate setting in my compressor? What the heck is that for? So, it's very strange.
How does Audition's automation stack up against some other DAWs, George? Because that's really intuitive. You can basically tell it to start recording an automation, go and do everything you want to do, and then tell it to stop and then add it to a hotkey.
You can't do everything, but you can do a lot.
You can do a lot. And that's my question is how does it compare to some of the other ones?
Reaper is actually probably going to take the cake here because Reaper is fully scriptable.
Fully scriptable. Not that it's easy.
And fully, like this is something that Pro Tools just added, and that makes Reaper like really powerful. And the other thing that Reaper has, and I don't know if it's part of it, but there's these other companies like SWS Extensions, and they make whole worlds of stuff that, like Reaper has a number of capabilities that other workstations kind of don't in a way. Like one of the things that SWS could do is was snapshot the mixer and change the number of channels and even all kinds of stuff. It was almost like opening a different session within the session. And then we all know like Reaper can record straight from a track right onto itself, which you can't do in Pro Tools. You can't do pretty much in anything. And Audition's horrible because Audition can't even record itself. It can only waterfall out it's just like top to bottom. There's no going back up to the top within itself. So Audition's incredibly limited.
It is limited.
In that sense.
In certain ways, it's very nice that what it has. Like the favorites thing is nice.
It's like it never got its like 1995.
No, it never. And I have to say about Adobe Audition, I hope you guys are listening over there at Adobe. What happened to Duran Gleaves? And what happened to the team at Adobe Audition that cared about Adobe Audition? I don't know if there's anybody left over there that cares about Adobe Audition.
Yeah.
They've stopped updating it. All they do is they do an annual refresh just to say there's a new version.
And they make it look prettier. Yeah, that's about it.
No, not really. I mean, I've been teaching it for 3 years and it hasn't changed one iota.
The last feature I saw was where they provided like a really nice ducking feature. Mm-hmm. And I think cool that it did not have the spectral view and Audition put in the spectral view.
But the spectral view on Audition is very good. The other thing that Audition can do that's a very powerful tool for really many people in audio, for voiceover especially, or anybody mastering for podcast, video, YouTube, whatever, is loudness match loudness. Yep. And that's a really, really useful tool.
Yep.
But these are all things that like what you're buying there for $35 is like you're getting a lot of some features that you would have to pay third party for through something like Pro Tools. They try to pack a lot into there. And it's not necessarily the best implementation of it.
But it's in there already. So
value it's in there and you're like, shit, I'll just use this because I got it now.
Yeah.
It's not that Audition is not powerful, but I do think that I fail to see how Audition is any more or less complex than Reaper in terms of if you don't know what you're looking at, they both look infinitely daunting. And so I don't see how, like, there's plenty of things in Audition not to click on and don't do that, and you're going to mess yourself up. So how is it any different than Reaper?
Well, at least in Audition, I can go in there and quickly make them a workspace that has exactly what they need to see and nothing else.
Yeah.
Like, I can do that.
You can remove items from the menus, or what do you mean?
No, but what you visually see on screen is completely customizable, and you can store the whole workspace.
I would be surprised if you can remove things from the screens, and you can simplify Reaper.
I'm sure I can. I just don't know how yet.
I'll bet you.
It does. I haven't gotten over the learning curve. Even though I sat and watched a 4-hour class, I still don't feel confident I could sit down and do that.
I keep on finding just like new stuff in Reaper. Like Reaper will edit video.
Yes,
Did you know?
yeah. I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and it kind of does surround, but it's really not well implemented. Like there's certain things that Reaper does.
Did you know that Twisted Wave can edit video?
Yes, I remember. You like that came up.
Yeah.
Yep. But Twisted Wave editing video is a little bit more like QuickTime.
Correct.
QuickTime could
But
edit
more,
video.
but more useful. Like you can go through
well,
and
you can
jump
actually
cut the
see
hell
what
out
you're
of the
doing.
video and just trim it down.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what the tool is right now? That
Right.
honestly is what I feel like I need to start teaching people if they're willing to pay for the fee, is Descript. Have you guys spent any time really using and learning Descript yet?
No.
So Descript lets you load the file in. Like first of all, Descript is all online, so it's nothing but subscription.
Well, it's not. It is subscription, but
Really?
no, it's an app.
It's like storage based or time based or something, isn't it? How do
It's
they do it?
transcription based.
Time.
It's their primary thing. Basically, Descript is scot-free until you turn on description. I'm transcription. You can use Descript for free as long as you want. If you want the transcription feature, that's when you start paying for it.
And then you can edit using text.
Correct. Yeah. And it does it very, very well. And if you guys can go look, you can hate on my videos or you can tell me you like them, but watch the last 3 or 4 YouTubes I've done. All of them were cut in Descript. All of them produced in Descript 100%.
No, it's incredibly useful feature.
And the fact that I can shoot a product review that would take me 2 to 4 hours of production and post-production time, right? I can do that now in an hour. I can make a 10-minute YouTube, tightly edited, very tightly cut video.
Can you not even edit it? Can you just give it to ChatGTP to edit?
Maybe someday. Well,
Yeah, probably.
Well, that's a good point. I could take the
bet you
transcript, load it into ChatGPT, say
remove all
do a short version, make a 400-word version of this video, take that, put it back into the editor, boom, re-edited by ChatGPT. I haven't tried that yet, but
Yeah, but you'd have to tell ChatGTP to do a 400-word version of it without using any words that were not originally pasted in there.
yeah, no, it would not. It would be a goofy experiment, but I don't.
I have not done this.
No, but what I do on it all the time is I say shorten all word gaps that are longer than 0.3 seconds. Boom.
Yeah, so ChatGTP is not going to do that for you, but you can get a lot of the like just the
tediousness of editing
out.
down, especially if you just leave your camera rolling. Like if you're self-producing a video of a product review, you're fumbling around, you're putting this thing in, you're doing this step, you're putting all this crap together. The first thing I would normally do is watch the whole video, log all the shots, right? Find all the dead, remove all the This thing I just go, just shorten all the gaps in the speech by, that are longer than 0.3 seconds.
But
it just doesn't.
Okay, so you're suggesting Descript as a recorder as well?
Oh, I'm doing everything in
or you're
Descript.
just saying that because of its editing.
I'm literally
function.
doing everything in Descript, shooting everything. I use my iPhone and I use Camo, which turns my phone into a webcam, and it shoots directly
webcam,
into
yeah.
Descript. When I'm done, it's all in there. It's in there, baby. Audio is tracking separately, and then I have to sync them up together later, which is, they're not in perfect sync, so I have to do that. But it's pretty freaking slick.
But they're not in sync now because of Descript, because of Camo.
It's because of Camo, because it's over Wi-Fi. I'm using it over Wi-Fi.
Because you're over
There's
Wi-Fi.
a little,
yeah.
about a 1/3 second lag. But but you don't even need to do video at all. You can just use Descript as an audio editor. I mean, it's
right.
crazy.
But what were we solving before? It's like, hey, voiceover person, use Reaper. No, Reaper's
what we're
too
solving
complex.
is when people have a fucking conniption when they see a waveform on screen.
Exactly. And as the only person who's not technical in this discussion, which I've been the listener, Reaper, nah. Pro Tools, nah. Twisted Wave, yep. Wavelab, yep. Simple. I mean, I can get myself in trouble on Wavelab as well. I don't have too much of an issue with Twisted Wave. That seems to be pretty intuitive. But yeah, I would not go into multi-track at all. Leave that for the engineers.
Well, you have no need to.
I don't find Twisted Wave editing to be a very fine-tooth comb when it comes to if you're trying to edit a word in that somebody didn't say and make it sound natural. The fact that once you paste it in there, you can't slip and open up the tails or the heads
You
of
can
your
do
edit.
it one time. You can make a single edit. You can trim the boundary of that edit, but once you move to your next edit, the trim boundaries are gone.
You're locked.
And that I think is a feature, not a bug for an actor. You have to make a friggin' decision and move on. Actors that are thinking about non-destructive, they're like, well, what if I want to go back? Like, no, you're not paid to engineer. you're not paid for that. You have to make a decision and move the hell on. You can't sit there and agonize over three different what they call them, lanes in Reaper.
Lanes.
You can't agonize over these three different lanes of takes that you just did and comp together an audiobook. You can't do that. You have to just move on. So that's where I feel like that extra power and function, while it's very useful.
But if it's like, ooh, it's a tough one, and you're not sure, and then you're like, I can't move on with the rest of my work until I fix this edit. I just have to go with this. And then later when you're like, oh shit, I really made a bad one there. Now you're re-recording that section probably. Because
you know what? For actors, they can re-record it faster than they can re-edit it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because they're better at acting. And I tell people all the time, actors, are you better at editor or are you a better actor? They're going to say, well, I'm a better actor. I'm like, would it be better for you to just re-record that line than it is for you to piece it together from 5 different takes and comp it? Yeah. Like, so.
So re-record.
That's your answer.
Yeah.
It's like re-record. That really what it comes down to. If you are the actor, you have the luxury of re-recording. If you're the producer engineer, you do not. Well, now there's ways to do it.
But sometimes the creatives get hung up on a take.
Oh yeah, the creatives meaning the producers at the
writers, the directors. Yeah.
But if people are listening in and they're hung up on a take, then you give them everything they need and let the engineer do it. If I'm working on my own,
this is more about like audiobooks where there's just so much of it. There's no way that anybody's like fine-tooth combing all of it.
No, if they are, then I'm really sad for you as an actor if you have to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I work with voice actors all the time who do audiobook narration, and I'm like, how long is it taking you to finish that chapter? We talk about ratio all the time. What's your ratio? It takes me about 8 hours per finished hour. I'm like, that's too long, dude.
It's way too long. It's crazy.
If you're putting 8 hours in, man, you just need to. Well, and the problem is I think a lot of those folks are not people that started as an audiobook narrator. They started as a voiceover actor. And the goal of pumping out a perfect 30-second commercial and a 30-hour audiobook is extremely different.
An audiobook is much more like a live performance.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And you have to be able to lay it out. Like, I mean, that is the same thing as the band that has to overdub everything, or the band that just like plays it and like you're like, shit, like the monitor.
I know we've digressed to so many topics, but this is what leads me to the whole don't make your finished product sound so perfect that you sound like an AI.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Keep the humanness in there. Keep the fact that, sometimes there is a mouth noise or sometimes there is a little weird little thing in there. That's okay, because keep in mind, the listener is going to hear that and not even register it unless it makes what you just said unintelligible, like you had a marble in your mouth. Unless it's completely unintelligible, then they're going to hear what you said with the flaw and they're going to move on. Like all the time, people all the time send me an audio clip and they say—
a lot depends on what the genre is.
They'll say, listen to this file. And I go, okay. And they're like, didn't you hear all the mistakes? Or didn't you hear all the noises or the glitches, whatever, right? And I'm like, no. Can you give me an example? And they'll say, well, at 30.2 seconds, I made this, there was this noise. And I'm like, okay. Select it, zoom in, listen to it closer, play it. Okay, oh yeah, no, I do hear what you're talking about. You're going to have to let that go. You're going to have to move on, man. And that's what's really hard for some actors about when they self-produce. They have to.
It's
be able
difficult
to just
because
decide.
you get buried in the minutiae.
Yeah.
Like if you don't. I mean, look, I have to edit myself as well. I do some long form thing and I go through it all, and then you have to go back to make sure you pick up all the mistakes you made.
Mistakes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then go back in and record that sentence or pick up those lines again and drop it in. But if you get caught up with every tiny little noise or something between words where
Did you hear
can
when my nose did that little thing there, or that glottal stop thing, or that? I'm like, it's
and
okay.
the pen, I knocked the music stand or something.
Yeah.
Which is so in the distance, you're not going to hear it anyway.
At the same time, it's like don't sound like the swamp and just like let every mouth click through, because it can be pretty bad if you sound like really nasty. But I agree. It's like I think especially with the books on Tape Crowd, and I'm surprised at how many. It depends on where you're coming from. If you're a musician, this is like second nature. But the ability to read literally along with yourself. And then you can just punch anywhere at some point because you're like on the same track, literally. Yeah. And punch right over a consonant, no one will ever know. Don't punch over a vowel. So just like, I messed up somewhere over there, roll back, start reading along with yourself, and on the next...
you said the word tran. No, it's trin. Okay, so you punch in on the T, and you can nail that punch in. That takes practice, but it's practice. It's learnable,
and you can set the auto punch. But the thing is, not to come in and be like, listen to Tran. You have to read everything along before it.
Yep,
you're basically self-editing, and then it makes it a lot easier.
I used to love doing that actually.
Yeah.
When I used to go to sessions and they go, we'll pick up, can you just read in, and I'd try desperately to make it phase.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, so you were speaking.
Succeeded.
You had matched your prior take so closely
to
that
the point where it was
like
phasing.
The pitch,
double, the chorus,
pitch, the pacing,
not even a chorus, like a phasing sound.
Yeah, it starts to sound like Pink Floyd. Basically.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's very cool when you do it.
You know what? No one can do that anymore. That is when you were recording the tape, that was what you needed to do. And like now it's like, I'll record all kinds of stuff like music and especially, I'll just say it, like a lot of rap stuff. You hear in rap now jump edits where like there's no way someone did that. There should have been a breath there. It's like an impossible. You can't do it. Okay. And it's like, where does this come from? This comes from not punching in proper. No. It's an aesthetic. It's just like auto-tune was an aesthetic of abuse of the, okay? This is an artifact of not knowing how to punch in.
Yeah.
And someone eventually having to deal with it.
But it's like video editing with all the crash edits. It's now with YouTube, everyone accepts
it's audio
like,
crash edit.
Why would you do it? I see crash edits and go, oh my God. If I had done a crash edit when I was working in television, I'd be fired.
I agree with you, right? So I sat down with my dad when I was back east a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "Hey, watch this video I edited. It's like 170 crash edits, right? Because what I told the script, hey, will you remove all the gaps? Make every edit 0.2 seconds, right? And then it says, okay, I'm going to remove 100. I'm going to do 100 and whatever. It counts the number of edits. It says, okay, here you go. All right, or here you go. And then it does it like instantly, and then you have a million little slashes, right, where it edited. And I have to, they're not all perfect, right? So I clean it up a little bit, right? And then I make the video, and I have my dad watch it. My dad is my dad. He's 25 years older than me, right? I'm thinking he's going to watch this video and be irritated with the crash edits, the jump cuts, whatever you want to call it. I thought he was going to be like, Dad, George, this is annoying. This is really frustrating to listen to or watch, right? Near the end of the video, I said, Dad.
Yeah, I had to listen to you for 25, 40 years, and I have to listen to you some more.
I get to the end of the video, I'm like, Dad, what did you think of that? Did you see all the edits? I edited the heck out. It's got a million little edits. He's like, oh, I didn't even notice.
Isn't it funny?
Yeah.
See, but you'd always have the cut of used to call them noddy shots or whatever, or pickups. So you'd always have a second or third reel that you could use for cut-in. So when you're doing an edit like that, you could do a drop-in to cover up the edit.
Does Twisted Wave have slip? Can you cut the breath out and leave the time?
They do a thing called a special paste, and I paste over room tone where I want to get rid of them.
Yeah, that's what I do when I do an edit.
You know how to do it. It's quick, but still, yeah, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
And we silence. I don't recommend silencing, but you can just silence. Select an S will silence or mute anything.
Actually, you can do another thing.
It is like, it's like a very dull knife is what it is.
It's
you can do you can do a fade. You can
that sometimes that works if you want to do it
It's like
quickly.
brutal moves.
It's brutal moves, but it's brutally quick. Like it's like especially because of the zero crossing. You turn on auto extend zero
it
crossing.
only edits on
the
zero
edits are just
crossings,
always dead accurate. I mean, they're not dead accurate.
It's like the guy that makes a good sculpture with a chainsaw and a block of ice.
or the guy at the pier who can make a painting of the cosmos with a paper plate and a spray can.
With spray cans
They're
and
just
shit.
like, what the hell did I just
totally.
watch? That's what Twist of Wheels.
Actually, do you know what I was watching? Just so you, do you remember like Star Wars and like the scene where Han Solo flies through an asteroid field? And they're talking about the different styles of these guys at ILM, and one guy's like perfect. He just everything. It's like he makes the meteor that is 50 miles away have craters and stuff.
Too much detail, yeah.
And the other guy's like, there might be some potatoes in that asteroid field.
Yes.
And then they slow it down, and there's just potatoes in the asteroid field.
It's great.
It's what works.
Each guy has his place, right? One guy knows how to get the job done for that budget, and the other guy knows how to be the perfectionist.
One guy feels better about designing the details on it, and the other guy feels better about just like having that Hollywood, like you walk behind the building and it's just like being held up by two.
Now I'm going to say that Twisted Wave is the space potato, the Star Wars space potatoes of editors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the chainsaw and block of ice. It is definitely effective, but it's like, I don't know.
But then there is one guy you missed. You missed one guy. There's the one guy who can make a meal out of an asteroid field.
Who's that?
The guy who makes the potatoes.
Oh yes, right.
Wait, what were we talking about again?
Exactly.
It started as my don't use Reaper ramp, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So don't pay the Reaper, pay the Twisted Wave.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to TriBooth and Austrian Audio, recorded using Source Connect, edited by Andrew Peters and mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging, with tech support from George the Tech Whittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, theproaudiosuite.com.